I'm Hillary Hendershot, your host, and this is Profit Boss Radio, episode 129. Profit Boss Radio is your weekly wealth mastermind. Profit Boss is also a community and a movement for women who are ready to take control of their money, break the glass ceiling, and give ourselves permission to finally have enough. Want the secrets of wealth to be yours? This is the place. I'm Hillary Hendershot. I'm a certified financial planner running a leading advisory firm for women, and I'm sharing with you real stories from real life and real women who are making it happen. Forget Wall Street. Let's do this, ladies. Hey, just popping in here with a little end of year update. We are going to take 2 weeks off so that me and my team can spend some much needed time with friends and family. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. But either way, Happy New Year. May 2019 be all of our best year yet. And I know that you could say that every year, but it's true. Life can just keep getting better and better. In 2019, I am creating full and total vibrant health for my entire family, including especially my daughter, Harlan. Thanks for your support all along the year and throughout the year. And I will be back with you on January 11th with a listener wins episode. Can't wait. Hello, Profit Boss. As women, we all know we're up against stereotypes in business. We feel it every day. Just this year, I myself attended a financial planning association event where several blatantly ignorant comments were made to me. One man said his chair bumped into mine because of my very long legs, and another asked me in an incredulous way if I was even a financial advisor. Mind you, my name and the name of my firm are right there on my name tag in front of his face. It says, Hillary Hendershot, Hendershot Wealth Management, right there. And he still assumes that because I'm a woman, I couldn't possibly be a financial advisor. I ended up tweeting and posting about these interactions actually at that event, and the whole thing went viral. Well, as viral as any financial advisory industry thing could go, right? Someone in the industry who is a prolific writer and thought leader decided to write about not only my experience, but his own experience of a male at that same conference approaching him while he was speaking to 3 or 4 very successful women in the industry. And the conference attendee referred to those women as his harem. Harem being a group of sex slaves. So maybe because this story did get told very publicly, maybe there will be some change there. I'm sure so many of you have examples just like mine, and I rarely talk about anything woman versus man on the show, and none of this is about man bashing or man hating, because we all know that there are some very good egalitarian and fair-minded men out there. But stereotypes and gender bias are everywhere. We even get it in customer service, where we're made to feel like the whiny woman when we raise an issue, and the person on the other end doesn't seem to hear us or take us seriously. It is annoying. And in a career, it can be downright demeaning or advancement limiting. And if you're human, when you're faced with this kind of nonsense, it can be very difficult to A, know what to say, and B, have the courage to say it. It throws you off, and it's the kind of interaction where you spend days and weeks going over the event and refining and perfecting what you should have said. So I'd like to help you out, and let's bolster that confidence, gather together as women, say the things that need to get said, and do the things that need to get done. My guest today is Linda Smith. She's a very strong woman who has found a way to rise through these known stereotypes within the very male-centric legal profession. And she has tips and takeaways that she now shares with other women, today you, so that we can effectively rise to whatever position we want, be heard, and be respected by all of our peers. Linda is the author of Smashing Glass and Kicking Ass, and she is known as the meanest woman alive. This should be good, right? Linda led a successful career for years at the law firm O'Melveny and Myers, where she often tangled with outsized male egos, including Mick Jagger, without ever breaking her stride. She argued cases in front of the Supreme Court, and her tenacity as a cross-examiner earned her the prodigious title of the meanest woman alive. And while she's definitely the meanest to hostile witnesses or sneaky opposing lawyers, outside the courtroom, Smith is known for her sense of humor, fierce loyalty, and deep commitment to collaboration. Now, Linda's mission is to empower ambitious women in all fields to use our talent, smarts, and femininity to reach our own pinnacles of success. Whether the challenge is defeating gender stereotypes, conquering self-sabotaging behaviors, handling difficult men, or attaining leadership positions, Linda draws on her own experiences and those of other highly successful women to show women like us how to come out on top by embodying the best and most successful traits of women. Please enjoy this conversation with attorney Linda Smith. Linda, welcome to Profit Boss Radio.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited. Would you share with us, we've got your legal background and an idea that you're super credible and successful, but would you share why you feel so passionately about helping women advance their careers? And maybe some of the ways that you've maybe felt misunderstood over the years?
I've practiced for 40 years, and I wrote the book, and I do these podcasts, and I was on the Today Show. I've done a lot of that because I am outraged. I really am outraged that women have not made more progress. And in fact, my view is that women are going backwards.
Really?
Yes. And I know you have this, and I will not sit here quoting statistics because that won't be interesting to the listeners. But, men are promoted at 30% higher rates than women. Only 7% of equity, joint venture equity, capital goes to women. 7%. And when it does go to them, it's $250,000 less at a minimum. And here's my best example. Although this is not just about the law or even corporate. This happens in every field, from academics to the arts to entrepreneurial startups to big business, and certainly the least progress is in STEM. But my view is that after decades of struggling to demonstrate we're equal to men, not only are we not making any progress, but we are going backwards. In 2017, we reached the all-time high of female CEOs of Fortune 500 companies at the grand total of 32 out of 500. And then in 2018, that number decreased by 25%.
Oh, my.
And here's my premise about this. And I feel very strongly about this. And that's why I decided to write the book, is that we are playing by the wrong playbook. Women, because men make the rules, men have ruled the business world since time immemorial. And to the extent that we're trying to use a male playbook and outman the men or beat the men at their own game or, become a mini man, that's not going to work because the game is rigged against us. It's silly. So I think it's time for women to use a different playbook, to use our own playbook, a women's playbook, and capitalize on our unique advantages as women to succeed and lead in business. And when I say that, these unique feminine advantages have nothing to do with our sexuality, in case anybody's thinking, oh, Grace, we're just going to just wear low-cut things and sleep around. No, that is a joke. We have we have two weapons, actually, that are far more potent. But the first one is that, and believe I promise I will not get academic on you because I think this should be, engaging and just straight talk. But study after study shows that emotional intelligence is the secret sauce for success in today's world. And that's because that old model of command and control where the alpha male is like the head of what I imagine a military force to be, and he tells everyone what to do and they just do it, does not work in the social media communications age. And you need more than that. What you need is emotional intelligence, which is a combination of sort of empathy, intelligence, and strategy. to put you through. So it turns out that they've done 1 million tests. In fact, one test was on 22,000 companies, and they found that of the 12 competencies that researchers have developed as the key markers of emotional intelligence required for leadership, women outscore men in 11 out of the 12, significantly outscore them, and on the 12th we tie men. So we don't just excel in the warm and fuzzy skills, the soft, womanly skills. We excel in traditional, quote, men's skills, like driving for results and taking initiative. So knowing this, that we actually have what I call superior leadership skills. And let me pause to just say for 1 second, I love men. I don't hate men. I'm not a man hater. I guess I'm saying we're better than them at certain things, but it's not an us versus them. It's just an us. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, women, you have these superior leadership skills, and you should have this should give you the confidence to lead, because you're actually better at it than the men. And let me make one other point, and then I can tell you're about to stop me, and I don't blame you. But there have been a ton of studies, and it's made like the front page of the New York Times and Harvard Business Review and Forbes and Fortune and everything, McKinsey and everything else, that if you have a woman in your C-suite or on your board of directors, your company will make more money, period. Any company across every line of business. And if you have 3 women, either in your C-suite or on the board of directors, you will, and this is the formula, and this is the results of the study, you will treble the revenue of your company, you will double your profitability, and you will engage more completely half of your employees.
Yes, I've read those statistics.
Right. So we have superior emotional intelligence. We're better leaders because we're able to, combine the ability to be strategic and calculating. And what emotional intelligence really means is that you understand your own motivations, your own emotions and what influences you, and you can read and understand the emotions of others and understand what's influencing them. And therefore you can make strategic judgments that allow you to, sort of read the perceptual screen of the men in the room, gauge the situation strategically, choose a nuanced course of action, and take control. So we have this incredible skill. And I want women to know they have it. I want men to know that women have it. And also, then you just have this thing with you're just going to make more money. So let me ask you this. If you're a business and the name of the game is making money, and I were to tell you and show you conclusively these zillions of studies that show that if you have women in leadership positions, you will make more money and you will be more profitable. Why aren't men putting women in leadership positions?
Well, to that end, and so I made the mistake up front of asking you 2 very different questions in one statement. So I'm going to circle back to, no, it's my fault. Okay. And I'm going to put that second question, which was about times in your career when you felt misunderstood, because I just really want people to get the kind of experience you bring to the table. But I want to just close loop on this conversation about why women aren't in the C-suite. And you mentioned, for example, the top 500 companies. And is it really the end all be all for women to be running these really large companies? Aren't there other ways women can be successful and women can take ground in terms of earning respect and credibility and equality?
Yes. And in fact, that's why I added that this trend of not putting women in leadership or not letting women advance in their careers. They don't have to be CEOs. They can go. Women should be entitled to go as far as they want, and then just like men do, or as far as their talent and ability will carry them. just like men do. I don't care if your desire is not to lead the company, that's fine with me. Not everybody wants that, but to have the choice. And what I did say is this trend of course, in every industry, women make less than men. In every industry, but also this thing of how we're not being treated equally, we're going in the wrong direction. That trend is the same, as I said, in big business. It's the same in venture capital. It's the same in entrepreneurial startups, academics, the arts, STEM. We were terrible in STEM. So that, so if you just want to be a professor, or you want to be an artist whose work gets shown and who has shows, or start a company or be part of a startup, you're going to experience the same problems. So I'm not even talking, I understand your question. It's a fair point, but I want to make sure women know that all I'm interested is in women being empowered. And I don't mean that in I don't know what you'd call it, like hippy dippy way. I mean a serious way. Women be
really empowered.
Really empowered. I want women to really understand that they have these superior leadership skills and that they can use them to advance their careers and take it as far as they choose. And not everyone's going to be a CEO. Not everyone wants to be a CEO. I just don't want, there's a lot of women who get stuck in jobs for which they're overqualified, or settle for those kind of jobs, or get so frustrated by their lack of advancement that they quit or they get fired. And I want women, or they decide, to stay home with kids, which I think is a perfectly legitimate choice. But I want it to be the woman's choice, not something imposed on her by society and by gender stereotyping and bias.
By limited options. And it's exactly. It's a situation where you kind of have to pick yourself and champion for yourself, because so far the men aren't, not in droves anyway, getting out of the way, or, each one reach one. Men aren't reaching down and pulling women up. Sometimes women are, and I'm not, there's exceptions to everything. Like, I'm not saying anything universal, but my main point is what you're saying is women have to fight for themselves. You need to take the bull by the horns. Oh, you betcha. And I have all these specific suggestions for how you do this in all these different areas, because, and as I said, your goal doesn't have to be the top. Your goal is just to be able to advance on a fair basis. All I'm looking is a fair field, so that you can go as far as you want based on your ability and talent and drive and everything else. And, that should be just a given. And let me just say one other thing. There's another set of studies, and this goes to this whole thing. And they've done a million studies about this, but there was a study released in July of 2018, which confirms what literally hundreds of other studies have found before, and that is there is a deeply entrenched gender bias against women in leadership by corporate America. So men in corporate America are deeply biased, and I'm not even saying it's necessarily a conscious bias. It's both conscious and unconscious against putting women in leadership. Well, I've even read that women are unconsciously, well, it's not, that would be a sleep, subconsciously biased against other women. Yeah, well, the thing is, I did an article for Entrepreneur, and it said, beware of killer snakes, which were the men, and queen bee women. And the thing is, I have a Meanest Woman Alive Facebook post, and I have 500,000 followers. And whenever I put in something about men not being fair or men being mean, I get a lot of response that says the worst boss I ever had was a woman. So I think that I've actually found there's two reasons for this, and I think they're really interesting. One is, this queen bee syndrome, where a woman recognizes that only one woman can be on the top, and there's only a seat at the table if there is one at all for just one woman.
And so she has to knock off any other woman who's coming up so she keeps the seat. That's one theory. The other theory, which you sort of started to reference in a way, is that, and I found so bizarre, is that studies are showing that as women become more successful, they start to incorporate the male beliefs about women, that they're inferior. Even not them, but everyone else. And
everyone else.
Yeah, they get sucked into the culture, and so they start to regard other women the same way the men do.
Well, do you think this is a generational thing? Do you think these old guard biased men are going to start coming out of the workforce soon?
You know, Hillary, I wish that was true. I honestly do. And I thought that was the case. And what I called it is dinosaur thinking, where the old guys were just, you know, they have wives who stay home and raise the kids, and you know, they're the boss, and they would never consider it. But once they all retire, it'll be fine. But it keeps going. And what I'm seeing, and I have interviewed and done studies on women who are very successful. But what happened is, I thought my audience was going to be, because my thing is, I want to tell women, when you get out of school, you're going to face the following issues. And I call them dragons or demons. One is the external dragon of gender stereotyping, which is rampant. And the other is the internal dragon or demon, which is the self-sabotage that women experience because we've all internalized the gender stereotyping, and now we defeat ourselves.
That's right. We actually believe it.
Right.
And it shows up like insecurity.
Terrible.
Yeah.
We're afraid. It's all based on fear. We're afraid we're going to fail. And it's also based on, we're going into so many things, but it's also based on the fact that we're raised, little girls are taught to be good, to be polite.
Do you know that I've told people not to say that word to my daughter? They said, "Oh, you're such a good girl." I said, "No, she's not. She's neither good nor bad."
Exactly.
Don't use the G word.
Boys can be rambunctious and hit and fight and fail and get up and be messy and disheveled and try to beat each other at things, while girls are just supposed to be well behaved. And so that starts the cycle where then women are afraid. One of the big theories I have about this, and we're going off field because we're going all over the place, but it's still a lot of stuff that I want to convey, is that I had my entire life, I had been afraid to fail because I had this vision that if I failed at something, I don't know, the world would end, my world would end, the world would open up and swallow me. It would be so disgraceful and embarrassing that I couldn't live through it. Whereas guys are taught very early on, boys and then guys and sports and everything else, even though women now play sports too, that you can fail and you get back up and just live another day. But women are so afraid of being revealed as an imposter, revealed as a fraud, or failing that we won't take risks and seize opportunities and speak up and all the other things women don't do. And that's all based on the self-sabotage we do, which comes from our internalization of all this gender stereotyping, where we have, I sort of consider it like, maybe when my kid was little, my son was little, he's now 28, but, I watched Aladdin with him 350,000 times. And there was that parrot that sat on the shoulder of the bad guy who kept whispering. It was actually Robert Williams, but he kept whispering all these sarcastic things. And I sort of think of it like that, where, you know, that parrot or this internal critical voice is saying, you're not good enough. You know, you're not qualified. You're a fraud. You're going to be found out. You're going to fail. And this tremendous fear holds women back. It's huge. So I think we have what I started to say is I wanted to tell women coming out of school, whether it's college or grad school or whatever, here's the two dragons, the external and the internal, and here's how you beat them. And then each chapter deals with another issue and how you deal with it and what you do, etc. And I thought the book would be the biggest hit among people who had in their 20s. And then it turns out, in terms of the sales of my book, and also I think I mentioned I have 500,000 followers on Facebook for Meanest Woman Alive, that it turns out that my demographics skew to women in their 30s.
Yeah.
And sometimes older. And that's because women, when they start out, this goes back to whether the dinosaurs have to go away, the old guys. Women start out and they think it's going to be fair because they graduate from college and grad school in the same numbers, and they get hired in the same numbers into most jobs. And then as time goes on, 3-4 years, they start to realize they're not making the same progress. They're not advancing. They don't have a mentor. They don't have a sponsor. They're not going drinking with the guys. They're not part of, the gang in the same way. And it's only then that they start to realize that something is going on here. So it actually takes a few years. But these young women, these women who are 30, 32, sometimes 28, 32, 35, they're really feeling it. And they were raised, as I told you, I'm not old, I'm mature, but I've practiced for 40 years, and the women are telling me it's just the same. The young women, I talk to all, and I also have talked to women in finance and women in academia and women in the arts and women in STEM. It's not just, I'm not talking about just lawyers here.
Yeah. That
they're finding the same biases are continuing. And I find that really strange because you'd think that men who grew up with, number one, parents like us who, teach our children that everybody's equal, but of course still giving the girls dolls and telling them to be good while they're letting the boys, play cowboy and army and whatever else and fall down and get all beat up. But that these parents have raised children who would not have these same prejudices, but they get incorporated into the male culture as they get older, and they start acting just the same.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So let's back up just a little bit because I want to come back to this because I do want people to hear what your recommendations and prescriptions are for the the issues that you've already brought up. But I want people to get to know you just a little bit. And, you have said a couple times you had a 40-year career. So I'm just going to ask you to pick some of the pivotal interactions, moments, meetings, conversations where you felt like, wow, you began to have the awareness that you weren't going to get the respect that you probably deserve because of your gender. And then you probably began to learn how to navigate it. So you probably gained confidence in navigating it over time. So could you just tell us a few of those kind of the highlight stories?
Sure. I'll tell you one big one that was further on in my career, but what I would say is, when I was younger and thinner, I had a good body and very large breasts. And I wore blonde hair sort of in the old style, which maybe some of your listeners won't even know, but it was like early Farrah Fawcett.
I was just going to say Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah. And I wore completely business appropriate attire, and what that consisted of is a boxy suit. It's a box up. Now they've changed them, but It was a box on the top and a box on the bottom. The only thing I refused to do is wear that big bow in the blouse.
Uh-huh.
But I would wear a blouse. I just didn't, and I was treated like you could just see. I'd walk into a room and the bubble over the men's head was, she's a blonde bimbo. Honestly. And as I got more senior and I was a partner, and I had won significant victories and I had a terrific reputation, every time I met a new client, the same bubble would be there. It didn't really matter. And what I felt like is, and I still feel this way today, as women, we have to be better than the men. And we have to, what I call it, dance as fast as we can. And what I mean by that is really prove yourself fast. And that means, when you have to be smart, strategic, on top of your game right away. That doesn't mean, by the way, walking in and being, the iron lady, it doesn't mean being a guy. It just means you have to show them right away that you're really on top of the situation and you know what you're going to do and, et cetera. And that still happens today. And they had this thing. It was an article. I think it was in Forbes. It might have been somewhere else. Oh, no, I know where it is. It was in the Lean In and McKinsey do a report every year on the status of how women are doing. And they feel the same way I do, by the way, that across the boards, women are not making any progress. In fact, Sheryl Sandberg, who, is from Lean In, issued the statement that really we're not making any progress at all. And in fact, maybe we're going backwards. So she agrees with me. But I just feel like things haven't changed. And to me, that is absolutely shocking. So I wrote this book to say, listen, women, let's understand the problem. Let's have a full and frank and no BS discussion of what the problems are. And then let's talk about how you can advance. You don't want to be the top leader five, and how you can advance your career and have choices. So my first thing was to tell women, and then we'll get into everything else, because we could talk for 6 hours, but I promise I won't. You won't let me. But
I don't think I have childcare that long.
I know. I hate when that happens. And would a man ever say that, by the way? Never.
No.
Okay. So, and I have all these things that women can do while maintaining their womanliness or their femininity. And that doesn't mean, as I said, not their sexuality, but I truly, deeply believe that it's a mistake to try to outman the men, because you're never going to be able to. And that's why I'm telling women, you have these unique abilities, and I'm going to tell you other things to do, but that should help you understand that you do have leadership skills and you should be able to advance as a woman. And I think that I have become a leader of men through using my skills as a woman.
What's the first practical tip for women?
Oh, okay, let's go. I was going to tell you the story, but I've talked so long, I think I talked myself through the story. I have the S's, is what I call them. And I just made that up because it was easy to remember. But here's how you move forward. Each one of these I could talk about for a long time, but I'll try to do them sort of quickly so we can go through them. One is that you should suit up using your emotional intelligence. And I think we discussed this already, that we have the combination of intelligence, empathy, and emotions that magnify our capacity for analysis and interpersonal dynamics. And we should use those to read the emotions and motivations of the people in the room, gauge the situation, choose a nuanced course of action, and take control. And it really does work, whether you want to take control or just be listened to. Second, confidence. Confidence. How many times have you been in a meeting or whatever? It doesn't have to be an official meeting. I want to make sure I don't make this too businessy, like corporate businessy. But you're in a discussion with a group of people at work, and there's a man who clearly doesn't have a clue what he's talking about, but he speaks with the utmost certainty, and he ends up drawing praise and respect from his audience. And you're thinking to yourself, I know he's wrong. He's clueless.
Right.
He doesn't know. But that's because, I keep saying study after study, but I really rely on all these studies, shows that success in the business world requires more than competence. And women are misguided because, again, we think if you are good and you excel in your work, that it's sort of a meritocracy and that you will get ahead. That is wrong. Totally wrong. Confidence trumps competence every time. Every time. And the study after study proves it. And that's because as human beings in a meeting or whatever we are, we don't have an ability to really tell who's smarter or we have to go with how people carry themselves. And the person who's the most confident, in lieu of having some other way to choose, we all choose that person as the leader.
But how does a woman develop an air of confidence that
Okay.
doesn't make her feel or seem like a B word.
Yeah, exactly. There is a danger of that. But let me tell you this. The really good news about confidence is that it is a skill. And like any other skill, it can be acquired and developed. And what my advice to women is, first of all, fake it till you make it. And by that, I don't mean go in there and be a jerk. I mean, go in there, you walk the walk and talk the talk. Carry yourself as if you're successful and you know what you're doing, and speak as if you're successful and you know what you're doing. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more when I talk about the way women speak and what they say to each other. But it is something where you have to, it's not becoming a bee. I call it a witch with a bee. So here's the deal. The best way to develop confidence is to just do it. I'm like the Nike slogan, I guess.
Yeah, it's a Nike coaching.
Yeah, act confident. If necessary, fake it till you make it. Acting is a big part of any job. It doesn't mean you need to go through your entire career pretending, but the first step to jumpstarting your ability to maneuver with assertiveness and poise is to act confidently. And you need to act and do. And let me give you an example. Let's assume that you're terrified of public speaking, absolutely petrified. You think you're going to fail. You think the world will open up and swallow you. And so here's what you do. And this is just an example. And what it is like behavior modification, I guess. But it's sort of like that. But so you give a speech to 5 people, okay? And you're worried, and et cetera. But you give the speech. And they don't award you the Nobel Prize for communication or whatever, but they also don't pelt you with rotten tomatoes and throw you out of the room. So you did it. And that should give you the confidence. Maybe next time you'll give a speech to 7 people or 10 people. And as you keep giving a speech and finding out that you're good, you're not great, maybe you're not amazing, maybe you are, but maybe you're not amazing, but you're also just fine. None of your worst fears are realized, and you do it. And so the more you do that, the more you take action and take risks and try, the more confident you will become. And it's a circular process. So the more times that you take action and take risks, the more confident you will become. And that doesn't mean that that is completely different from, I'm going to talk about something else in a minute, but that's completely different from being so assertive and pompous and arrogant or pushy or, something like that. To me, it's just, you're simply carrying yourself and speaking with confidence. And that takes me to the next point, which is huge. And that is when you speak up, oh my God, this is another really big thing. And in fact, if you guys if the women who are listening only take one thing from this, it has to be this, and that is you have to speak up with confidence. And what I mean by that is women put up with interrupting and mansplaining.
I was going to ask you about that because all these 3 points lead to this. You say, take control, have confidence, speak up with confidence. My experience is sometimes the man is going to fight you for control.
Absolutely. But so I have a whole program for this. Okay. And let's say mansplaining or interrupting is when you're speaking and a man cuts you off or speaks over you. And everyone starts to listen to him and it completely ignores you. The other thing that happens, which is just a side event, is that you have an idea and you propose it and no one likes it. They just dismiss you. And then later in the conversation, a man will raise the exact same idea and everyone will think he's brilliant. It's so frustrating. Okay, so here's what you do.
I'm angry just talking about it.
I know. And it happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what you do. The first thing you do is when someone interrupts you, you immediately say, stop it. You're interrupting me. I'm not finished yet. just in a calm voice, not bitchy, I used that word, but not witchy, but you just say, stop interrupting and let me finish. Or you say, I'm not done yet. Or you say, I've listened to you, now you listen to me. Or you say, I'm sure that you have something to contribute here, but I need to finish what I'm saying. Or you even can make them feel small if it works by saying, I'm not finished, and I may actually cover what you're about to say. So just hold off a minute and let me finish what I'm saying.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one part of it. The second part is body language. You make direct eye contact with the person who's interrupted you. You put your hands flat on the table, stand up if necessary, because I'm short. Maybe you're not, but you stand up if necessary. And if even further necessary, you walk to the front of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Because women look away from people who interrupt them. They look down. They look to the side. No, look right at them. It's very hard when you lean forward, point to the person you've chosen to acknowledge for a comment, put the flat of your hands on the table to make your point, and look that person squarely in the eye and say, I'm not finished yet. Very hard for them to keep going. And it really, maybe it sounds a little witchy, but it's not. It's just because you say it, you don't say it, you just say it. You say it in a very straightforward way. You don't say it like emotionally or meekly or anything. You just say it. So that number one is tell them to stop and don't tell them that they're interrupting you. Number two, make full eye contact and use your body language. Number three, use direct, forceful language when you give an opinion. Women do this all the time. First of all, we'll just quickly say, never say I'm sorry before you speak. Women say I'm sorry. If women actually thought about how many times they say I'm sorry during a discussion, they would die.
I know.
And have you ever heard a man say they're sorry?
Very rarely.
Never. Well, my view is the only time I say I'm sorry is when I have really hurt someone's feelings or really, done something really bad. Otherwise, I never say I'm sorry. It should be banished from your language. But the other thing that women do, if they don't just say I'm sorry, is they start to speak, but they say something like, I'm not sure, but, or I might be wrong, but, or it's just my opinion, but.
Yeah.
And if you caveat what you're saying, why the hell should they listen to you? They aren't inclined to listen to you anyway, and you've just taken away all your power. And let me just tell you this, because I think this is really interesting, and everyone, not everyone, but most people really love the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yes.
They did a study several years ago, which they then repeated just recently, and they found that the women Supreme Court justices are interrupted 3 times more by the male Supreme Justices than the men interrupt each other. And they also found that people men arguing before the Supreme Court, so we call them the advocates, will interrupt women justices and not the men. And they also found, which I found just amazing, that the more women they added to the court, the more interruptions they got.
So interruptions might seem innocent, but they're the harbinger of biases to come, and we have to nip this in the bud.
When men speak, it's about power. When women speak, it's about communication. And so we don't understand that. We think we're trying to communicate. And so Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she was constantly interrupted because she would start out by saying, excuse me, but I have a question, or let me just ask you this. And one of the other justices would just male justices would just cut her off. So now she doesn't do any of that. She just asks her question right out. She avoids any kind of nicety and just goes right into her question. And she's interrupted far less. And one last other thing on body language that is really fascinating to me. Just think about this for a minute. When someone is talking, a woman will nod. And it means go on, I'm listening. Go on, I'm listening. Yes, yes, I'm listening. The man thinks you're agreeing with them. Honestly, they did all these studies on this. The man thinks you're agreeing with them, and you're not. You're just simply saying, I'm listening. And we do it involuntarily. You just think about how many times you nod as someone is speaking to you. And we do it to other women. And that's how we say, go on, I'm listening. Well, it's being completely misinterpreted. So those are some guides on speaking up and not getting interrupted and getting to be able to, and the last thing, which is really hard because women are not that helpful to women generally, is what they did at Facebook is the women sort of made a deal that if a woman spoke up, that other women in the room would then say, well, I agree with what, Bonnie just said, or I think Bonnie makes a good point here. Or when a man takes the idea, they say, Bonnie proposed that idea a while ago. I thought it was a good one then, and I think it's a good one now.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, so those are things on speaking up and not getting shut down. Another S is step up. And what that means is you don't ask, you don't get. You don't ask, you will never get. It's like, this is a really sexist example, but Prince Charming isn't going to show up on your door. Opportunities are not handed to you on a plate. If you want to achieve your goals, you have to ask. If you want plum assignments, leadership roles, salary increases, promotions, a sponsor, a mentor, you have to go ahead and ask for it. It won't be bestowed upon you. And sometimes they won't even think of that you want it or need it unless you ask them. And women have a really hard time asking for promotions. And so let me just segue again into confidence. They've done all these studies that if there's a job promotion that's opening up, women will only apply if they think they're 100% sure they can do it. And men will apply if they think they're 40% sure they can do it. Go ahead and grab it. Try it. You're going to do as well as the guy. Go ahead and seize the opportunity and make the best of it. See what you can do.
Fear of failure really contributes to this.
Oh, my God, it's huge.
Inaction, lack of confidence, paralysis by fear.
Yeah. They talk to, in this book called The Confidence Code, they talk to...
I actually know the author of that book, Kara Hale. Yeah.
Well, it's great. It's Katie Kay and Claire Shipman, I think, are the authors.
Oh, okay. Different book. It's a different book. Sorry.
Anyway, but there's lots of
I just said sorry. Go ahead. The Confidence Code.
You did. I know. And by the way, I did one radio show and I did one TV show where we had the man do everything that we interrupt all the time and stuff, and so I could call him out. It was really funny.
Sounds hilarious.
So they talked to all these women. They talked to the first 4-star general in the U.S. military. They talked to Christine Lagarde, who's the head of the IMF. They talked to Hillary Clinton, and they talked to Angela Merkel. All strong women, all incredibly accomplished, all, at the top of their game or close. They all admitted that they suffer from tremendous insecurity and fear of failure, fear of being unmasked as a fraud, imposter syndrome, the whole 9 yards. And so the way they dealt with it generally was before they went to any meeting, they would over-prepare to the max so they'd know the issue upways, down, sideways, etc. So they would never be caught out looking stupid or ignorant. Here are these women, and it's the same thing with Ruth Bader Ginsburg or anybody on the Supreme Court. They are at the top of their professions, the top of their game. They prove themselves over and over and over again, and yet they're beset by the self-sabotage, this fear. So you have to shut down the voice. And I don't believe in affirmations because I think affirmations are good, but, I'm smart, I'm funny, I can do this. That's
I'm
good.
with you.
But what you should do is figure out in your mind what triggers that voice and basically try to shut it down. Tell it to shut up and replace it with, and this is like an affirmation, I guess, but it's sort of very directed, like, I can do this. I can perform at this meeting. I can make my point. I can do this job. I can go in and ask for a raise. Just tell yourself you can do it. That voice isn't going to go away. It really isn't. It's just built into us. You just have to consciously shut it down and talk over it. It's very hard. And all of these women have made it with that voice by just keep going forward. And I have too. I mean, I have that voice, but I've just tried to step on it every time I can.
I think that really is the key, is taking action anyway. We have this mistaken idea that our actions in this present moment should be a function of how we feel. So if we feel fearful or feel that we lack confidence, that should dictate what we actually do. And I guess over my career, and certainly I don't have the tenure you do, but I've learned to take action anyway. And in fact, I have some, I guess, pat myself on the backness about it. That building a business for me was terrifying at times. I say, every day I take an action that scares me. Every day I feel fear and I take action anyway. And now it's like a muscle, right? It's like I've been on that treadmill so many times that I know I'll stay in action.
And you know what else? Sometimes I do this, and I have to admit it, but it's not a bad idea. They say, that you stand up, you put your hands on your hips, you look in a mirror, and you just say to yourself, looking, I can do this. I can do this. It's like an empowerment trick. Just say it a bunch of times and then walk away, because that stance is for some reason, very empowering. Mm-hmm. And the words are empowering, and it just gives you that little extra boost.
Yeah. Yeah, I took a course once where they called your body language essentially structural language. And there are a bunch of positions you can put the body in that increase confidence, that kind of get you out of bad moods. And so that's completely valid what you just said.
Yeah. And, you had this, I think I was listening to you speak on a different podcast, but you were saying something that is so true, and it's so hard, but your thoughts really control you, and what you think is manifest in your actions.
Yep.
And so you have to change your thoughts. And if you have to do it purposefully and intentionally, then do it. Or ignore them. Or tell them to shut up. Okay, I have a couple more quick ones, and then I think we've way more than used up the time. But I also have another S, which is show up. And that is displaying your true grit. And what that means is they did a bunch of studies. I say that wrong. And they tried to figure out, there's so many people who are brilliant or geniuses even, who don't become successful leaders or advanced or whatever you want to say. And that's because in addition to having ability and talent and intelligence, you have to have grit. And that's a combination of mental toughness, courage, hard work, sometimes just sheer stubbornness to keep going until you reach a goal.
Yep.
And I mean, it's not a very sexy thing, but grit has become a huge thing that you have to demonstrate that you have the tenacity to continually prove yourself. And that also goes back to my comment that I feel like I always have to dance as fast as I can. And the last thing, another S, not the last thing I would say, I can keep talking forever, but the last thing I say is smarten up. And what I mean by that is women are people pleasers. Women like to be liked. Women do not do well when we displease others or get negative feedback. And I want to tell women, if you want to advance, it's not a popularity contest. The most likable person in your office is never the leader. Likability is overrated. And we have to learn to withstand disapproval and criticism and to take hard, contrary positions when it's necessary. I don't mean just be a jerk about it, but when it's necessary. And instead of trying to achieve advancement and success by being likable, the goal is to achieve it by being respected and decisive and inspiring, because that's what leadership is. Likability doesn't really make any difference.
What do you think the key is to being respected, but not, I guess the word I want to say is annoying. So some people are hardened. They display assertiveness, even aggressiveness, confidence, and it's affrontive for people. But even in this conversation, I can tell that you actually are not the meanest woman alive, because you're very gentle and you're very caring, but you're extremely confident. So what is the linchpin or the difference there?
I think the difference is that this whole emotional intelligence thing, I think I've said it several times, but it's sort of reading the situation and reacting strategically. Mm-hmm. And I think you could see, I have this theory that, which is, borne out by certain studies, but that men are consumed by the contest of who's going to be the alpha male. And it's really sort of a testosterone fight. And so alpha males have their antennae finely tuned to detect a threat from another man or another potential alpha male. And while they're so busy with this game, women can use their emotional intelligence to figure out what's going on, read everybody, choose a course of action, and actually take control. And that doesn't mean you can do that without being a witch or even hard. They're busy. They're distracted by this game. And so you just have to say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And, here's what I propose. And people go, oh, that's not a bad idea. Or as I got more senior, I always had the first meeting. If I had, it was all the studios in the world, the motion picture studios got sued. And my client was Warner Brothers. So we had a meeting of all of the general counsel, which are the in-house head lawyers for each studio, and their outside counsel. And so I held the meeting at my law firm. Okay. So they're on my turf. I prepared an agenda, which I handed out. And then I started talking. So I seized control, not by being sharp elbowed. It just, everybody came in. I said, thank you. Here's the agenda. Let's turn to number one, blah, blah, blah. And all these big egos, which could hardly fit in the conference room. They were so big. And I, of course, was the only woman, as I always am. They were just like, oh, yeah. I mean, it was like, they didn't really quite have a chance to get all puffed up and start trying to dominate and then I'd say, well, I really think the first thing we should do is draft a motion for X. And I'd say, we've already prepared it and we'll circulate it to the group. And matter of factly, not as a jerk, and I think the men are sitting there going, how is she ending up in charge? I'm the smartest, best person here, and I have lots of things about how you make allies and do all sorts of other things to work out those kind of situations. But really you can, if you just play it smart, because you're a woman and they don't think of you as a direct threat. And that actually is your advantage. And then you don't act threatening. You just have a cool solution. And everyone goes, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I mean, it's really funny. My view is that my definition of mean is strong and brave, not nasty, not mean-spirited, and not overly aggressive, although I am assertive. I found that generally I'm very direct, straightforward. I never swear at anyone. I never denigrate anyone. I just have a proposal and I convey it with confidence, and whether I feel it or not, I do. And it's a good idea, and no one can think of a reason why we shouldn't do it. So there you go. I'm making it sound easy. It's been a lifelong work.
I think it's a skill hard one.
I do too, but the thing is actually, I think my mother claims I came out talking. I was born talking.
Is that right?
But the thing is, I really have not had a problem with this. I mean, I've been sexually harassed to death. I have millions of stories of that. But in terms of my ability and being taken seriously and doing and excelling in my work and being recognized for excelling in my work, I haven't had a problem with that. despite all this male domination and gender stereotyping and self-sabotage and everything else, I think you can actually be, I don't like the word nice. Nice sounds like you're a nice little girl. I think you can be straightforward and sort of tough. But when I'm saying tough, I don't mean like...
But without a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah. And I think it actually goes down better. In fact, I have one whole part of the book where I'm talking about I had to prepare for testimony like the CEOs and chairman of the board of $15 billion companies. And those people are all surrounded by yes men. People don't ever give them any bad news. And so I would just say, your answer is unacceptable. We're practicing. Your answer is not going to fly. Not at all. We need to completely change that. Don't you dare say that. But I'm a woman. And so their prejudice is actually to my advantage because they would take it from me, whereas they would not take it from another guy. And so I ended up defending all the biggest people because they wanted me. And I was fierce in the deposition. I'm very protective. I'm a gladiator for my clients, and I will protect them. They were able to take orders from me without feeling demeaned because I was a woman. So it's sort of using sexism to your advantage is the best way I can say it.
Okay, Linda, thank you for all of this. To wrap this up, I really would like to hear anything that you wish you could tell your younger self. Anything you would say to yourself the first few years in that law firm?
My parents had 3 girls, and they made us feel from the beginning, and this is, I think, a really good skill, and I think very hard, but I think it's really good that as women, we could do anything we wanted. Now, of course, I wasn't going to be an NBA basketball star because I was a woman, and also I was 5 feet tall. And I wasn't going to be a concert pianist because I had no talent that way. But that there was never this sense of, even though you're a girl, you can do this. It was just, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
And I think you have to keep telling yourself, I am smart and talented and able. I'm just as good as anyone else, if not better. And I'm just going to keep going. And there'll be setbacks and you'll have internal doubts. I'm making it sound like it's just easy peasy. It is not. It's a struggle every day. And I've been in the practice 40 years. I'm still the only woman in the room most of the time. And I'm still dealing with sexism. You just keep your focus and you keep your sanity and you say, I'm talented. I'm good at this. I can do this. And then you just go on and do it.
It's the Nike coaching. Just do it.
I know, it's terrible.
It's okay.
I don't want to
take incremental action. Put one foot in front of the other. Just do something.
Right.
Good.
Taking action, risking, doing anything. It's like those whole behavior mods where you can't get on a plane. So first eventually they take you to the airport and they take you home. Then they take you to the waiting room of the airport, then they take you home. Then they take you up the steps to the plane and then they take you home. And then they put you on the plane and they stay with you. That is sort of like that, except it's internal.
Well, I hate to say it, but you have unearned your nickname in this interview. I can no longer think of you as the meanest woman alive. You have a huge heart. You wear it on your sleeve a little bit, but it's obvious that you do care about women and our lot, our being able to come to the table and get what we deserve and need and have it be merit-based. So
thank you. But the thing, I want to maintain my meanness in the sense of brave and strong because
you can have brave and strong.
Okay. I'm collegial. I'm professional. I'm fun. I have lineups of people to get on my cases. But if you're abusive to my witness, to my client, or you misstate the law or the facts, I'll go after you hammer and tong on an intellectual basis because that's wrong. I'm protective.
Well, it sounds like you're very even-handed as well. So I think your wisdom is so valuable to my listeners. I really appreciate it, and you did a great job of putting it together in bite-size form. I know you said you wanted to talk 6 hours, but one will have to do.
Okay. Yeah, I had a great time, and thank you all. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I really admire what you're doing. I'm very happy that I'm going to listen to your show more.
Hey, Profit Boss. 2018 is rapidly winding down. As you know, the holidays are coming and I'm preparing a special episode that celebrates you. But this special episode also requires you. So if you have accomplished some big financial goals this year, I want to hear from you. If you're thankful for something that's happened in your financial life or career, I want to hear from you. If you're making big plans for 2019, I'd love to hear from you. It's incredible and inspiring and encouraging to hear about how women like you are changing their narrative with money and doing things they never thought possible. The truth is, your financial success is possible, and so many of you are already making that a reality. So don't keep your wins to yourself. Share them with me so that I can share them with the community. Don't be embarrassed. Fly your flag, girl. No win is too small. No win is too big. It's time for you to contribute and to be a part of making a difference. We are a tribe of smart, capable, powerful women who talk about our financial wins, express thanks and gratitude for important changes in our financial journeys, and look forward to a new year of financial and professional progress. Email your audio clip to media@hillaryhendershot.com. That's media@hillaryhendershot. Hillary has one L. Hendershot has two T's.com. Come on, do it now. And then stay tuned for a very special listener-inspired episode. Thanks, ladies.